All right, thank you all for coming to ALCOSAN's Act 537 Plan Special Study public meeting. We are here tonight to meet with the public and present our plans for some important infrastructure improvements within Oakdale, North Fayette, and our neighboring communities. This session is being recorded and will be posted on ALCOSAN's website to solicit public engagement and comment. And we do have a dedicated question and answer segment after this presentation. There's also other mechanisms of how the public can provide their comment on our proposed project that we'll discuss at the end of the slides. My name is Julia Spiker. I am the manager of regionalization for ALCOSAN, which is the Allegheny County Sanitary Authority. Bob Dengler is the designer of this project, and he's with GFT. Tonight, we want to present our Clean Water Plan update and then talk about the Act 537 special study that's specific to this project, along with some next steps, and then certainly address any questions and provide answers that the public may have. Allegheny County Sanitary Authority is the region's wastewater treatment provider. We are located on the North Shore. This is our Woods Run treatment facility. We serve 83 customer municipalities, including the city of Pittsburgh. And we treat about 250 million gallons per day at max capacity at present. We serve about 800,000 residents spread across our region. The system has been in service since the late 1950s, and it was designed to convey flow to our treatment plant. It goes through both sanitary, which are separate systems where there's a dedicated sewer for stormwater and a dedicated sewer for our sanitary sewage, as well as combined systems where you put both of those flows into one pipe. So during rain events or snow melts, the sewers become overwhelmed with the amount of rainwater that enters the system. To protect the public and prevent basement backups or flooding right in our local neighborhoods, some of that flow is allowed to relieve itself through what we call combined sewer overflows or sanitary sewer overflows. Currently, each year, approximately 9 billion gallons of combined sewer overflow and sanitary sewer overflows discharge to our local waterways. ALCOSAN, through many decades, and in partnership with our customer municipalities, have been working towards improving the water quality and helping protect those waterways that are really an identifier for this region, for the city of Pittsburgh, and for Western Pennsylvania as a whole. The plan to reduce those overflows and meet water quality standards in our rivers is called ALCOSAN's Clean Water Plan. This plan was approved in 2020 in response to our modified consent decree, which is simply a layout of how we're going to comply with reducing overflow volume and meeting those water quality standards. The first phase of projects must be complete by 2036 and involves over $2 billion of infrastructure investment right here in our area. The plan will reduce overflows by 7 billion gallons each year. There's other benefits to investing in local infrastructure, including job creation, additional capacity in our sewers that are the backbone to allow development in different parts of the service area, and you'll hear that come up with our communities tonight. The plan is broken into 4 key pillars. We're expanding the treatment plant so that we can treat that 7 billion gallons that's going to come into the system instead of into the rivers. We're building our regional tunnel system, which is a redundant system to what we have currently in the ground with the original construction, and that's to pick up those 7 billion gallons and get it to the plant for treatment. We also have our GROW program, which is a source control project and grant funding mechanism that ALCOSAN works with each of our individual customer municipalities to make thoughtful investments in how to keep water out of the system that the municipalities are responsible for operating and maintaining. And then we have the 4th pillar, which is regionalization. It's what brought us here tonight. And that program is about ALCOSAN taking more responsibility for critical infrastructure across our service area. This program is the voluntary transfer of certain infrastructure from the municipality's ownership, financial responsibilities, and operation responsibilities to ALCOSAN. This diagram shows the general configuration of sewers in our service area. Those initial laterals are privately owned, And then the municipalities own the collector system, those smaller diameter pipes that stretch out into the neighborhoods. Trunk sewers are those that cross municipal boundaries and extend further into the system and are larger diameter in general. Then you have what ALCOSAN has traditionally owned, which is the connection point for treatment and then the deep interceptors that are large diameter and bring all that flow down to the plant. These trunk sewers are what's eligible for transfer. They're defined as anything 10 inches in diameter that conveys flow from more than one municipality. When you apply that criteria to the ALCOSAN service area, we found 265 miles of sewer were eligible, along with this infrastructure along them. This is critical because our consent decree says we have to make a good faith effort to transfer at least 200 miles, and with this criteria, we met that and exceeded it. There's 95 regulator structures, and I want to point that out because those are the points in the system where overflows are allowed to occur or are occurring if they're sanitary sewer overflows. Currently, the municipalities own 95 of those structures plus more, but 95 of them are eligible to come over to ALCOSAN under this program, making us responsible for addressing them, controlling them, or eliminating them if they're an SSO. There's also 4 pump stations, which are simply places where gravity cannot push the flow, and they're lifted by pump to then continue onto the plant for treatment. And 4 equalization basins, which is where water's held back during wet weather, and then once the system has recovered and the storm has passed, we're allowed to relieve that back into the system. That helps us also reduce overflows. This region has been working on this program for a long time. It was first presented to us in 2008 in our consent decree with that guidance of take 200 miles. But what does that mean? We could find 200 miles in any one individual point of connection in the system. That's not really the point of the program. So we convened a group of stakeholders across the rich academic community in the region. A lot of our municipal partners were involved to say, what is the criteria? They came up with that 10 inches in diameter and also defined what ALCOSAN would be responsible for once transfer occurs. ALCOSAN then simultaneously inspected all the infrastructure that was eligible for transfer, and a group of solicitors from the municipalities negotiated the terms of the transfer agreement. We had our first transfer completed in 2023, and now we're moving forward, picking up momentum and moving into this next phase of the program, which is really about making that infrastructure improvement and ALCOSAN being responsible for operation, maintenance, and financial requirements of being the owner of that infrastructure. The benefits to the municipality and to ALCOSAN are outlined here. They mainly focus on 3 areas. One is the foundation of the program, which is stronger relationships with our customer municipalities. This helps us better understand their need. It helps them understand how ALCOSAN can be a different kind, a stronger partner in their municipalities. We also provide emergency services. We do nothing but treat and convey wastewater. We do it 365 days, 24/7. So we have emergency services always at the ready to respond. And then ultimately we become financially responsible, and we lift that burden off of the municipality's shoulders and place it on ALCOSAN's when this is our entire focus. And everything that we do is really driven by affordability and that clean water plan. To date, we have 62 miles that have completed the transfer process. You see 33 of those regulators and overflows have transferred to us as well. 2 pump stations are in the process of transferring. 1 we'll talk about here tonight. The other has been agreed to, and we're still working through that process. But you see really great momentum across the years once we got that first transfer process understood. So the region should be extremely proud of where we're at, especially when you think that this is a voluntary program founded in just partnerships and communication. So in these municipalities tonight, we're focusing on what we'll call the Robinson Run Trunk Sewer. This extends from Oakdale, McDonald, North Fayette, South Fayette, and does include 1 pump station on it. It's a combination of gravity sewers and force main. It's about 9 miles of infrastructure that we're talking about transferring. These partners have been tremendous in, especially I would say the last 3 years, really focusing and moving the project forward thoughtfully and responsibly to make sure that each municipality is being heard and represented in the project that we're here to talk about tonight. Before I turn it over to the designer to talk about the details of the project, want to remind the group this is an Act 537 plan special study. It is the first one that we have in regionalization, and any Act 537 plan is a requirement if you are the owner of sewer facilities that serve the public in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So we're here to fulfill that requirement. The point of them is to hear from the public and get your feedback on what we plan to build in your local neighborhood. And with that, I'll turn it over to Bob Dengler to talk about the details of the project.
Thanks. Thank you, Julia. I'm Bob Dengler with GFT, the designer for the project. And as part of the design, we've been assisting ALCOSAN with the preparation of the Act 537 plan special study. The project area is outlined here in red, and the existing pump station sites here at the eastern edge of Oakdale Borough at the end of Industrial Park Drive. Actually, the site where the pump station sits is in North Fayette Township. It was the former site of the Oakdale wastewater treatment plant until I believe the late 80s when the plant was decommissioned and flow was sent to the ALCOSAN system. And then we are going to increase the size of the interceptor along Robinson Run up to the middle of Oakdale Borough here, intersection of Union Avenue and Noblestown Road. And then we are going to increase the size of the North Branch interceptor up to the boundary between Oakdale and North Fayette Township. And really the driver for the upsizing of these facilities, the sewer lines, is the additional capacity that North Fayette Township is requesting in the system. They are looking at to increase capacity of 700,000 gallons per day. So focusing on some different aspects of the project area, right now the Oakdale pump station looks like this from this picture. The building was originally constructed in the 1960s with the Oakdale treatment plant at the time, repurposed to pump sewage to the ALCOSAN system in the 80s, and is now beyond its useful life. So the plan is to replace the pump station with a brand new pump station, as well as the construction of a 1.3 million gallon equalization tank. And that tank will help to reduce the incidence of sanitary sewer SSO overflows at the site. So here's a rendering. If you're looking at the area at the end of Industrial Park Drive, looking at the current pump station site, the current pump station would be sitting right here, which would be demolished. This is the new pump station building. And this pump station will include both what we call dry weather pumping. Normally, that's the sewage that comes into the station from the service area and gets pumped to the ALCOSAN system. We're also going to have a second set of pumps, what we call the wet weather pumps. So when the flows get to the point where they overwhelm the dry weather pumps during wet weather events, rainfall, snow melt events, the wet weather pumps will then pump up into the equalization tank, will retain that water, and then when the wet weather event subsides, that water will be drained from the equalization tank into the pump station and pumped into the ALCOSAN system. Now, looking at specifically the upsizing of the trunk lines that are part of this project, we're upsizing approximately 2,675 linear feet of 24-inch pipe to 36-inch along Robinson Run. And then up the North Branch, what's shown here in yellow, we're upsizing about 1,765 feet of 18 to 21-inch pipe up to 30-inch. And then finally, up in the orange shows the upsizing of about 1,800 linear feet of 12-inch, 18-inch pipe to 24-inch. And I'd like to point out that this pipeline upsizing is going to happen primarily within the trench line of the existing pipe. The contractor would actually remove the existing pipe and put the larger pipe in the same alignment and in the same easements, except there's a couple of areas where we're going to need to deviate from that alignment. But for the most part, it's going to be, the sewer line is going to be placed in exactly the same spot where it is right now. So a couple of highlights along the replacement of the sewer line. Robinson Run is going to be fairly challenging because the sewer line is right along the creek. There's limited room behind some of the industrial buildings here between the creek and the buildings that we have to install the sewer line, kind of right where that truck is located there in the picture. And then coming upstream, there's a kind of grassy area where the sewer line resides, but then you get into kind of a stream bank. So part of the project will include stream bank restoration where needed. We're going to have to obtain the proper DEP permits in order to construct in the stream bank and restore the stream bank as required. And right here at the intersection Union Avenue, Nobletown, there's a couple of bridges there. The North Branch sewer line comes down underneath the bridge of Nobletown Road that takes Nobletown Road over the North Branch of Robinson Run. So there we'll probably have to bore and jack, which is really kind of tunneling the sewer line underneath that bridge because it's very limited access to get equipment underneath that bridge to be able to construct the sewer. Now moving upstream on the North Branch, one area where we will have to deviate from the existing easement is right underneath the bridge that is owned by Oakdale Borough on First Street. And the existing sewer line is really, it's kind of encased in concrete right next to the bridge abutment. Really don't want to disturb that. So our plan is to go across the other side of the creek underneath the bridge. There's a little bit more room. We'll go across and then come back. So that's going to be the one, probably the main area where we're going to get out of the existing alignment, but we'll get back into it as we go further upstream. And then the sewer line alignment bounces out here to Clinton Avenue, otherwise known as Route 980. And so the sewer line is really just to the east of Clinton in the sidewalk. We'll have probably some minor traffic control when the sewer line is being constructed, but it's not going to be within the travel lane. And then moving upstream here, where Clinton Avenue crosses Robinson, the North Branch of Robinson Run. That's another area where we're going to have to kind of deviate again from the alignment. We're going to go across Clinton Avenue to the other side and then cross the creek on the west side of Clinton Avenue and then follow up where the orange is showing. That's the Clinton Avenue extension. And essentially, we're going to be basically following the existing sewer line along Clinton Avenue extension up to the end of that road where there's a ball field here at the border of Oakdale and North Fayette Township, and that's where we're going to connect with the North Fayette Township sewer line. And anything upstream of that will be a separate project that will be constructed by North Fayette Township to, again, upsize the facilities to handle the increased capacity that they need. So the Act 537 study that Julia mentioned previously, that's required as part of a planning document for the project. The study addresses a number of items that we have to look at. We look at previous wastewater planning and current conditions, and we look at all the planning that was done by the municipalities over the past really several decades, going back to 2013 and even previously. We look at that and pull that into our plan. We look at service population flows and loading projections. Again, North Fayette Township's request for additional flows. And then we look at proposed facilities to be able to handle these needs and look at alternatives. We looked at a number of different alternatives, and this really did piggyback up on the alternatives that the municipalities looked at, back in 2013 and other plans. We looked at, could we keep the existing pump station, maybe rehabilitate it? Really wasn't a good alternative because of the age. We looked at utilizing the existing pump station as a wet weather pump station, and that really didn't work out either. Really the most cost-effective and long-term solution was to build a brand new pump station and decommission and demolish the existing pump station. We look at the financial and institutional evaluations. Who's going to be, in this case, ALCOSAN will be the owner-operator of the pump station and the sewer lines, implementation schedule, and then the public stakeholder participation, which this meeting is a part of. We have a public comment period for 30 days, and that's a pretty important component of the plan for public input. So looking at previous studies and how this kind of flowed into this plan that we're working at right now. I mentioned previously we looked at the municipal feasibility studies going back to 2013, maybe even earlier than that. And that kind of coincided with the ALCOSAN basin planning. So those studies converge into the preliminary basis of design report. And ALCOSAN had us look at this back in about 5 years ago when the regionalization program was really starting off. Some preliminary plans to upgrade these facilities. And then at that time, we're working hand in hand with North Fayette Township and their folks as far as, building upon the Act 537 plan that they produced for their upgrades in their system. And municipal input discussions, meetings with the municipalities in order to just make sure everybody's on the same page with the plan moving forward. So the implementation schedule is shown here, and so right now we're in the middle of the design process. We're at about, started the 60% design process in parallel path with the 537 planning. So we're looking at completing design, having our permits in hand by May of 2027. And at that point, ALCOSAN will advertise a project to bid, and construction will start in the summer of 2027 and carry through to March of 2030. And then the commissioning will be in around June of 2030. So June of 2030 is a date that we're anticipating the project will be ready to be turned over and ready for operation. And I'll hand it back to Julia for the Act 537 Special Study Outreach Schedule.
Thank you, Bob. So yes, we had worked very diligently and collaboratively to reach this point. Some of the milestones that we've achieved specific to this plan in 2025 were the release of the Act 537 plan, special study to municipalities. I don't want to forget to mention that North Fayette also has a plan for some of the work that they have going upstream of this connection. So we've coordinated that effort. The municipalities previously to this had prepared an Act 537 plan that was improvements to the lines that we're now taking under regionalization. So we looked at that and really coordinated carefully with the work that has been done. Then in July, we collected comments from the municipalities, as well as receiving some of that initial feedback from the regulatory agencies. In August 2025, we're now ready as of tonight and today to open up that 30-day public comment period. So we want to hear your feedback so that we can update the plan as appropriate. October of 2025, depending on what comments we receive back, we hope the municipalities are able to pass their resolution, allowing us to submit the plan to DEP. And then in November 2025, we want to go ahead and submit this plan to DEP for their review and comment. There are many different mechanisms that the public can provide input, ask questions about the plan and the material in it. You can go to the ALCOSAN.org website where you'll find our Act 537 plan page. You'll be able to review the plan itself along with that companion document that's an executive summary so that you don't have to read a 600-page, essentially engineering report. You can email your comments to public.relations@alcosan.org, or if you don't have access to the internet or simply prefer to mail in your comments, you can send those to communications at the ALCOSAN plant, and that address is here. Hard copies of the plan are available at each of these locations, so each municipal building has a copy of that plan and companion documents. Feel free to take a copy of the companion document with you there. You can also provide comments there. There will be little comment cards as well as a comment box. You can just slip it in there. We'll pick those up at the end of the 30-day comment period. If we've interested you at all in what's going on in the region as part of our Clean Water Plan and these various different programs, you can follow ALCOSAN through our social media, sign up for our newsletter, sign up for some soak alerts so you know when the system is in wet weather, and visit us at alcosan.org. The best way to learn more about what's going on in the sewer industry and what's going on at ALCOSAN is by attending our open house, which is September 13th, just a few weeks away. Tour the wastewater treatment plant, see some of the construction that's going on, and meet a lot of our partners that are helping us in our goal of achieving that water quality standards.